What's up, everybody? A Sparrow with a Gun here from Sleepless Night Studios, and I'm bringing you back with another update video. I know you guys are probably getting sick of it at this point, but there's actually a pretty good amount of stuff in this update, so I'm hoping that it won't be too terribly long, but there is a lot to cover. Some of you may have already figured that out from the title. So, first of all, let me say, I hope you guys either have had or will have a happy Thanksgiving, depending on when this video ends up going live. Hopefully, it should go up the day before, but a lot of it depends. I wanted to add the new finished intro, outro that the channel is going to have moving forward, but it's not quite finished yet. I encountered a few extra errors that I wasn't anticipating, so I may or may not have the new intro. If it doesn't, you'll probably see this the day before Thanksgiving, I think. If it does, well, then you probably are seeing it afterwards, because that's just probably the time frame I'm working with. Anyway, so wanted to get that out of the way. Hope you guys had a happy Thanksgiving if you celebrated. If not, well, then I'm sorry, because there's a lot of good food and good company normally. Anyway, so first things first, let's get started with a couple of things that have been going on behind the scenes. So first of all, I moved, which is part of the time frame that, the reason that it took me so long to put out another update was because we were finalizing the new house and where everything went, and I had to set up my new studio stuff kind of thing. All my equipment had to be reassembled and whatnot. Speaking of which, if you guys hear or see anything odd, let me know. I'm definitely focused more on sound because I'm in a new room, and that involves new acoustics. There's a few new pieces of furniture which can cause different kinds of echo and bouncing, etc. and so on. So I have most of my settings the same as they were before, but if you guys tend to notice some kind of weird sound, that things sound weird now, let me know, and I'll see what I can do to fix it. So kind of just ironing out the kinks, and stuff like that. On another note, the project with me and my brother is still going on, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, I suppose. However, I did tell him that just in the interest of needing to, get back to doing YouTube stuff and things like that, the project had gone far longer than expected. We initially planned for 3, maybe 4 months. Technically, I planned for that. He usually plans things like they don't take as long, so he was thinking it'd be a month. Both of us were terribly, terribly wrong. So I told him that I would help where I could, but I had to return to making YouTube and finishing my book and some other things that, I need to do as my priority. So I should be coming back one way or another at the first of the year is the hope. So somewhere around January 1st or 2nd, 2020, somewhere in there. Kind of one of those, when you see the new video, you'll know. And I may end up putting out a video here or there as the need arises. I'll get to that in a minute. But that's the idea, is I'm hoping that one way or another I'll be back beginning of the year, and then when I'm not recording, you guys shouldn't see the impact in theory. But some days when I'm not recording, I may be helping him on the side if I need to or something like that. But I kind of have to go back to making YouTube and my book and some other things a priority, because although I am getting paid to work with him, it's one of those, it's not really helping on the business fan side type thing of keeping everything going, keeping interest going, etc. and so on. I know everybody has been super cool about, we'll be here when you get back, take as much time as you, blah, blah. I just feel like it's time to get back to it kind of thing. So yeah, first of the year, or first-ish, around the first part of the year is probably when I'm coming back. Now with that, this is where some of the title stuff comes in. So I've recently been made aware about the whole COPPA thing, which is interesting, to say the least. So I got an email a while back, which I skimmed through. Admittedly, I didn't really read through all of it. It looked like YouTube was just updating their content restriction policies, and that now you would have to mark things as either family friendly or not, or kid friendly or whatever. And I was like, that's not a big deal. I'll just figure it out as I go and, pick which ones are appropriate. And most of the stuff on my channel could probably be considered kid friendly, because I try and keep things family friendly and cleaned up, and I even edit language and stuff out of a lot of my videos for the games and stuff like that. But at the same time, I do some games that are M for mature and stuff like that I personally, as well as the ESRB, would not consider kid-friendly. So I was like, I'll just pick whatever I need depending on the video. Well, a friend of mine asked me, he was like, how's this going to affect you? And I'm like, it's not. I'm just going to pick videos that I need to mark as kid-friendly and move on, kind of thing. Well, I recently watched a video by, I'm hoping I'm saying his name right. I believe it's Brian Hull, or Hill? Hull? I think it's Hull. Anyway, it's the guy, most of you probably know him from singing Frozen's Let It Go in like 75 different Disney voice characters or something ridiculous. He's a crazy voice impressionist person. But I recently saw a video that he had talking about how it would affect his channel, and I was like, why would this affect his channel? Is he like leaving YouTube or something? What's going on? So I watched it and was very unnerved is probably a good word, disturbed by how he was explaining this new COPPA situation, which, if for those of you that don't know, I believe it's the Child Online Privacy Protection Act or something. That's pretty close anyway, if it's not right. And it's essentially a law from the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, that says basically online stuff, companies, businesses, people, whatever, cannot, basically dig in and do privacy invasions on children, essentially, to where you can't get their social security numbers, addresses, personal information, etc. Which I get. I mean, it's a good thing to have in place. However, essentially, and I'm going to try and shorten this because I'm going to leave a link to both Brian Hull's video, as well as who he links to, which I believe is J House Law or something like that. I watched the videos, I just don't remember the name, but the link will be in the description, along with two other links. The link to the FTC for comment, and a petition to block what their new policy is trying to implement. And so I'm going to do a condensed version, but I encourage you, if you want to know more, to watch either of those videos and to find out more about how this all works. But I'm going to go over kind of the bottom line and what it does to me and my channel and how it's going to affect everything. So essentially, the short version is FTC decided that they were going to change some of the COPPA laws and or implementations or rules or whatever, and it pretty much put YouTube in violation. But it's kind of odd, since by my account they would have been in violation since like 2013, so I don't really know why now all of a sudden is a good time to do all of this stuff. Excuse me. But they apparently were settling with YouTube for like $179 million or something over the problem, the violations. And essentially what it was is personalized ads and things like that they record a user's history, activities, etc., and then personalize and tailor ads and other things to your viewing habits and what they've recorded. And apparently the FTC decided this is a violation of COPPA. Now, my issue with this, personally, this is a personal thing. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an advocate for blah, 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 blah. I'm not representing anybody. This is just a personal thing. My beef with this is that YouTube dictates you're supposed to be 13 or older to make a YouTube account. So theoretically, with that in mind, if everyone abided by those laws or rules, they're not really laws, but abided by YouTube's terms, there should be no child, air quotes, I'm doing air quotes with my fingers, there should be no children on YouTube to violate their privacy. So my beef with this is kind of from a parenting standpoint, in a way, that it's like, you're basically going to put restrictions on content creators and YouTube when, if a parent allows their kid to watch YouTube and they're not 13, well, they're violating YouTube's terms. So why are we at fault? Anyway, I'm getting off on a rant here. So the gist of it is, though, if you deem something as child directed or child targeted or whatever, that's the targeted demographic, it's children content, then they're turning off personalized ads, and you will get contextual ads. But I mean, kind of like Brian Hall said, if you know anything about YouTube's behind the scenes, personalized ads is really where the ad revenue comes from, to be honest. It's like, it's not really coming from the contextual ads. I personally feel like they should kind of be equal, but they're not. And even if they were, even if they were 50-50, you're still losing 50% of your ad revenue by marking something as child content. And my problem with this is the FTC is seeing this as a way to protect kids, and in reality, it's just going to turn YouTube into like Showtime and HBO, where everything is like 18 and up. Because here's my issue with it. So if you're a content creator, you're kind of screwed either way. Because of the very vague stipulations that the FTC is placing on what dictates child content. This is another big issue. It's not like if you're using harsh language, which again, that's another one of those, it's subjective. How do you define? I mean, granted, most of us can figure it out. If you're dropping F-bombs or something, then obviously it shouldn't be for kids, is the idea. But you probably get where I'm going with this, that it's one of those, who decides what is what? There should be very clear guidelines, and there really isn't. It's like, one of the big issues, though, is not the harsh language or extreme violence or something like that. The big problem is the ones that say things like, if it's child appealing. And I'm kind of like, have you met kids? Everything's appealing to them. It's like, when I was a kid, when I was 10 and stuff, I wanted to watch R-rated movies. I wanted to try and sneak in and play M for Mature video games, because to me, they looked fun. They looked cool. It made me feel older. It was like, I got in on the inside joke, kind of thing. So obviously everything's going to be kid appealing, even though, and that's the problem, is they're penalizing people, mainly content creators. I wouldn't have as much of an issue if the penalty fell back on YouTube for not properly regulating something. My problem is it's up to the content creator, and that's bad. Because, first of all, you're dealing with people's opinions as to whether or not it's kid-friendly. Second of all, if they're wrong, the penalty falls back onto the content creator, which, by the way, is nothing to sneeze at, because you can be fined up to like $42,000 per video for violating COPPA's laws. So here's the problem with this. Two things I see are going to happen. And again, this is my opinion, but I'm being backed up. My opinion was kind of validated by a couple of these other people that I watched their videos who said similar things. What's basically going to happen is all the people who are trying to make family-friendly content are going to leave or stop making content or something else, or try and monetize it some other way to stay afloat, because you're cutting most of their revenue out, because now they can't do ads where the ad revenue is actually making them money. They're not getting the good ads, basically. And they're essentially then either going to cut back the amount of content they're doing, which hurts the channel's brand and overall, audience retention. They're going to cut back on that, because now they're going to have to work a normal job or something to compensate for the lack of ad revenue. Or you're going to have channels that start going above and beyond to make 18 and up content type stuff, so that they are sure that they can market as non-kid friendly. Because this is the problem to me. This is where the system breaks. It's basically saying, and I know I said the short version and I'm rambling, so you know me, this is my version of the short version. I just can't cut out details. I can't do it. Anyway, so the problem I see with this is that if you're doing the right thing and abiding by things to stay within the kid-friendly market, you're being penalized by not making the money off of it that will keep you making content, which is kind of like what's the incentive at that point? You have to find some other way to monetize your content, or you've got to supplement it somewhere because you're not making anything. Now it turns into a pet project or a hobby or whatever. So you're going to have very few full-time content creators that are making family-friendly content because you're giving them no incentive. You're punishing them for making good content because now they're not getting paid what everyone else is getting paid. And on the flip side of that, you're going to have people that are so afraid of marking something as non-kid targeted that don't want to get penalized if they're wrong 42 grand. So in order to really make sure they're okay with that, you're going to have people that are trying to go above and beyond to make sure it's really not kid-friendly. And that's the problem I see, is this system is designed to protect kids, and what it's essentially going to do is push all of the market away to where kids won't even belong on YouTube. There will be nothing for them to watch because the ones that were there left because it wasn't lucrative, and the ones who are so afraid of getting slapped with a fine that they're making hardcore, like R-rated content just to make sure that they're not in violation. And that's my issue. Excuse me. That's what I was saying about I don't feel it's right to put it back on the content creators. It's like that's not really their job. Marking something as 18 or older if there's a lot of language or a lot of violence, yeah, sure, that's fine. Penalizing them that kind of a fine if they happen to be wrong, because here's the problem. You could say it's not kid-friendly, but if the FTC comes back and reviews it and says it is, you're in violation. So now it's a he said, she said. It's an opinion thing. And this is my issue with this kind of setup. It's like, this is not going to work. It'll work. It won't end well, basically. It won't do what they're wanting it to do. Now, in their defense, according to the J-House Law or whatever that channel was, the one that Brian Hall directed everyone to, according to him, he has actually met with the FTC and discussed this. And according to him, again, this isn't obviously my information, but it's secondhand information. But according to him, they're actually very open to discussion and very unaware of how the system within YouTube works. So it doesn't go live until the first of the year. So basically, everybody who's anybody that's a content creator is encouraging people to follow the link, sign the petition, and follow the link and leave a comment on the FTC's webpage discussing with them why it's a bad idea and why it won't accomplish what they're trying to do and why it will actually hurt content creators and kids, actually, because there won't be any content left for them to watch on YouTube. So I would encourage you to do the same. I've signed on the petition. I'm going to leave a comment later this afternoon as I'm recording this. So I encourage you guys to do the same. Now, I will echo what Brian Hull told his fans, which is don't hate mail them. Don't be like, I'm going to murder you in your sleep, kind of thing. But be respectful but informative and tell them exactly why this is a bad idea. And I do agree that I don't think it's really that good of an idea to make this kind of policy when they're not informed and they don't know what's going on in the YouTube climate. It's like, well, that's kind of silly. But I digress. That's where we're at. So I would encourage you to, reach out to them, leave a comment. As J-House Law, I really hope that's his YouTube channel, because if not, I'm repeatedly using his name incorrectly. But as he mentioned, yeah, J-House Law, I just looked it up. That is the channel in question. As he mentioned, though, we're YouTube. We know how to leave comments. Now, just don't do normal YouTube comments, if you know what I mean. Like, be nice, but be true. Because it is one of those that if they're listening, if they're paying attention, they should be seeing by now, this is a terrible idea. I understand, and like I said before, my biggest issue comes back to if everyone's abiding by YouTube's terms to begin with, this should not even be a question, because no one should be under 13. Now, I am very aware that, kids have been making accounts. Are you over 13? Absolutely, I'm 10. That's been happening for years. I did it as a kid. You know, when that, because websites and things, they don't check. It's like, if you said yes, then that's on you, so we're not going to bother. So I understand there's a ton of kids on YouTube that are not 13. I get it. But again, I'm just old school. I was raised this way, but to me, this is a parenting fault. This is something the FTC is trying to put the responsibility on YouTube and on the content creators, which is the part I'm more concerned about. I don't really care about them holding YouTube accountable because they're essentially responsible for the videos that they're hosting, so I get that. But, like, you know, if YouTube wants to implement a policy where they more strictly regulate to be sure that you're over 13, but again, then you come into, well, now you need privacy information and stuff to verify that anyway, so it turns into a whole nother mess. But my point is, it shouldn't be up to the content creators to dictate what your kids can and can't watch or what they're subject to, kind of thing. That should be on, if the kid is young enough he can't make that decision for themselves, then that should be on the parents to decide, is this something I want my kid watching? And so I do have a fault with that. That is a big issue for me, that I don't like how a lot of the fault and penalty is falling back on the content creators, and even somewhat YouTube, but again, I'm less concerned about that, but more on the content creator side to determine what is okay for kids to watch and stuff like that. That's just, it's bogus. It's one of those, if something needs to have an 18 plus tag, fine. That's simple. You click a button, now it has an age verification, which again, a kid could just say I'm 21 and it'll go through. It's like, it's all covering your butt, but it doesn't really do anything. But I do have a big issue with how they're trying to implement, like, the idea of what they're doing is fine. Protecting kids online, I totally get it. Online was not around when some of these original privacy laws were implemented, so you need new laws to adapt to the changing climate. I get that, but the enforcement of it and the way they're going about it is all wrong. Like, it's not even going to do what it's supposed to, and I don't think it's the right point of view to have to begin with, that it's taking parenting out of the equation, which, last time I checked, if you're under 18, that's kind of what parents are for, is to, I don't know, parent. But again, I'm old school, so that's just me. Anyway, that's enough about COPPA for now. So, moving forward, I am going to operate on the assumption that these new FTC implementations and the COPPA laws and all that are going to go through. If they don't, yay! If they do, well, yay. Forgive me for not leaping for joy. Bad back, you know. So, moving forward, how will that affect the channel if it goes through? That is an interesting question. So, for those of you that aren't aware, most of you probably are, I have not exactly been making a air quote living, per se, off of my YouTube ad revenue at the moment. It throws money in the pocket, but it's not exactly paying the bills. So, if that gets cut even more, will it prevent me from doing YouTube? Probably not, but it will change how I go about doing YouTube. For example, I am more than likely going to have to mark everything as kid-friendly, for one reason. I've always tried to keep clean entertainment and clean content, so even when something is M for mature, I try to cut out the language, and if there's anything overtly gory or something, I'll usually try and block it out, something. So I've cleaned things enough that just saying it's an 18 plus, and again, kids are interested in Assassin's Creed, kids are interested in Metal Gear, you know, so it's like, just because it's something they shouldn't watch with these vague things about kid appealing, I don't want to get slapped with a $42,000 fine, so I'm kind of taking I think I'm going to probably end up taking a better safe than sorry approach, which is kind of just ending up marking most everything with, it's not, or I mean that it's kid-friendly. Is that true? No, but again, you've heard my speech on that it's not worth a $42,000 fine to me to be wrong, essentially, by the FTC standards, and I don't know what their standards are because they don't know what their standards are. So it's like, that's the only course of action I see. In reality, I mean, I even put warning labels on my 18 plus, like, that were M for mature, because M for mature is 17 plus, not 13. So, You get the idea. This is why it's so redundant, is it's kind of like, this is dumb. But I've already put warning tags in them and stuff, so, you know, I should be able to mark them as not for kids, but if they deem, well, that's something they'd be interested in or it's appealing to them, then I'm fined, which that's like, no, I can't afford to do that. So, I don't know. I mean, I guess I could always mark it and then fight them on it and hope it works out, but more than likely, I'm probably going to end up just marking everything as kid-friendly and go from there. But besides from that new content, though, the part I'm concerned about is there's been discussion, like I mentioned, that there's talk about how will this affect things that are not just ad revenue, like comment sections, things like that. And if I lose comments on videos or something because that's how YouTube regulates whatever, there's no clear line right now as to what exactly will be affected by everything. So I'm leaning towards, I will probably lean heavily into Discord for discussions. If I have comments on a video, great. But if for some reason that's turned off because it's kid-friendly, again, I haven't personally looked into everything that will happen if you mark something as kid-friendly. All I know is that it will definitely not have personalized ads, but there's been talk, I mentioned it, that I saw it in Brian Hull's video, that there was something he mentioned about possibly having it affect comments and other things. So if that's true, I don't know it to be true, but if it is, I'm going to lean heavily into Discord for my discussions, comments, interactions with community. Now, some of you are going, what Discord channel? Well, it's been in the works. I don't have it up live yet. I mean, technically it's live. It's not public. I'm still tinkering with it. So the idea is I would lean more on YouTube as a host for the video, and the rest of it would be off-site. It would be on Discord for discussions and conversations. I would lean heavily into Patreon for support. I'm also going to be coming out with a merchandise store anyway with like shirts and stuff. So when that happens, I'm going to lean on that a little bit more. So it'll lean a lot away from YouTube except for the video itself. And that's unfortunate, but if this goes through, that's how I'm going to have to do it. If not, if it doesn't go through, then I will kind of handle things the way that they have been, and then just also add Discord and Patreon, pushing Patreon more, and actually giving you guys, you know, benefits from it and stuff, and the merchandise store and things like that anyway. But if the COPPA thing goes through and there are these changes that happen in January, I'm going to lean into it hard. Like, that's going to be my main discussion platform, main monetization platform, stuff like that. And YouTube will essentially be the little shelf I put the video on. But most everything else will be done through other places because it's the sounds of it, it's just not going to be very viable to maintain a community and stuff. Because there's discussions about even the community tab not being available if it's marked as kids. I think that had to do if you marked your channel as being kid friendly, which I would have to. There's too much of my, like 80% of my content is definitely family friendly, you know. And since kids are into gaming and other things, it would have to be marked that. So if I mark that and I lose my community tab and comments and things like I've heard might happen, again, it's a might. I don't know that, I haven't confirmed that, and I also don't even know if it's going to happen or not yet, depending on how they rule. But you guys get the point. If it changes, I'm going to focus, like, the video is going to be YouTube, but everything else is going to be under my own umbrella of my webpage or Discord or Patreon or merch store, whatever. And I'm going to pull away from YouTube as a community central place. If it doesn't, then I'm just going to add all those other features on top of what I already have on YouTube. So either way, I'm planning on sticking around. It'll just be in what capacity. Now you guys already know that I've talked about cutting back on the content so I can focus more on things being well made rather than quantity. That's going to happen no matter. I kind of was doing that anyway. But it just so happens to coincide with the changes for COPPA and everything like that. Now, speaking of new things, one of the things, I don't know when it will be out. I don't have a date for you guys yet, but I am working on it. I'll probably record it later this afternoon and then have to do a lot of editing. And the editing is the part I don't know how long it'll take. But I do think I'm going to try my first game review, and that's of Jedi Fallen Order. or Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, if you want the official term. I picked that one because I'm a big Star Wars fan, played the crap out of it, and really enjoyed it a lot, actually, surprisingly. I was kind of on reserve because it was, EA and Star Wars. They don't have a great track record. But I was actually pleasantly surprised with the game. But I figured that would be a good one to start with since I'm pretty versed in Star Wars and Souls-like games anyway. And I don't have a capture card anymore, so anything on console I haven't really been able to record footage of. I'm looking into a way to fix that. Because I had a capture card that went into my system, and when I rebuilt my tower, my new motherboard, it didn't like it, and the drivers, I never could get them to talk to each other, so I had to pull it out. And I haven't replaced it with a new capture device, so I ended up getting the EA Origin access for a month so I could play it on PC, and so I actually managed to record most of the playthrough, so I can, use video footage for that for the review. But I'm using it as a bit of a guinea pig. I'm a little more confident in my ability to review a game like that over certain other games and stuff like that. Like, I thought about doing a Death Stranding review, but it's been... Well, for one, like I said, I can't record the game footage. I haven't also finished it yet, which is kind of tough. And it's also seeming to be very opinionated in the review department. Like, there's no real consensus on it. Some people say it's the best game ever. Some people say it's the worst. And so I didn't want to start with something so controversial. I wanted to start with something a little more... universally agreed upon, if that's a good term. And not saying I'm just going with the flow or anything, it just didn't seem like a good idea to make your first go on something that no one can agree upon, kind of thing. And Jedi was something I was really wanting to play anyway, and I was really excited about it. I'm a huge Star Wars nut, so I decided that I was like, I think that would be a good one to start with of my first review. So I'm going to be putting that out shortly, hopefully within the next week or so. A lot of it just depends on my new intro and how long the editing takes for the video and doing graphics and other things to do the review. But I encourage you guys to watch it and leave feedback, not just on the opinion and your thoughts on the game, but actually on my method of review, the structure, the video quality, etc. And if you guys would want to see more reviews, because if you do, I'm going to start doing a few more of them here and there. So be sure when that comes out to leave your feedback on it. Mainly, I'm doing it very differently than other reviewers. I'm actually kind of doing it in reverse, where a lot of people will go through all the details and then give you a summary at the end. I'm actually going to start with the summary at the beginning for those that don't want spoilers and other things, but they are curious about an opinion. I've always found reading reviews that to be very frustrating, that like I just want to see the number to know how the game's doing, how it's received, but I don't really want to know anything about it. And I have to scroll all the way through and try not to read anything and get to or scrub through the video or whatever and just get to the score. So I'm going to start with a score, then a summary, then an actual breakdown in detail. And so I'm curious to see if you guys will enjoy that format, if you'll like that kind of content moving forward and so on and so forth. Because if you do, then I'll probably try and do a few more like game reviews as they come across my desk kind of thing and interest me in doing so, or if people want to really want to see a review on it, etc. And again, if everyone likes it and if everyone likes the my opinions, my takes on things, the video format, the structure, etc., then maybe I'll do a Death Stranding one next or something like that. Maybe by then I'll actually have beaten it because it's a freaking long game. Anyways, moving into scheduling when I come back, I have a pretty decent schedule in my head laid out now. It's always subject to change because I'm not actually done with it or I'm not actually doing it yet, but I think it's a pretty, solid schedule. And essentially what I think I'm going to end up doing is probably like on Mondays, I will probably be doing the Space Engineers, or no, sorry, that's when I'm recording it. I was looking at my schedule wrong. For releasing them, Space Engineers Inspiration will probably be coming out on Tuesdays. And I'll probably be doing a Space Engineers and a Subnautica Let's Play. mainly because those are two of my highest viewed Let's Play series. I thought about doing Minecraft and Stationeers or something, but I don't want to overload with too many things, because ideally what I'm trying to do is move a little bit away from Let's Plays and only have a few, and then move into more unique and scripted and stylized type of content, more in the vein of like Dog Squad or Space Engineers programming, stuff like that, like just a little bit more unique stuff rather than just Let's Plays. I've talked about that at length before. So I think what's going to happen is the Inspiration series will be coming out on Tuesdays, and then Thursday and Saturday would be where Space Engineers, the Let's Play, and the Subnautica Let's Play would air. However, I am taking the when they're ready approach, so there may be weeks where those don't air. But if they air, it would be on those days, is kind of the approach I'm taking to it. And when I record them, I'm basically going to chip away at them, and if the project that I want isn't done yet, then it's not done yet, kind of thing. And I'm not just going to be airing episodes to air them like I used to do. So as for recording, I'm going to be basically recording Mondays and Tuesdays, and then they'll be airing like Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday is the idea. And I kind of spread it out like that, so every few days you're getting content if I'm on my mark the way that I should be. And that also leaves me Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to work on other projects, whether they be games, books, or animation projects, or like the programming series, or other things that don't have a scheduled release kind of thing. That's the ideal schedule. So it'd basically be Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday is the idea of when you'd be seeing regular videos from me, with the exception of if Thursday and Saturday I don't have the content where I want it for the next episode of that series, then it may not air. Ideally, it should, because I'm also going to be cutting them back, the Let's Play series. The Space Engineers Inspiration will be largely untouched, other than maybe a coat of paint if I do more graphics or something, but the structure and everything should stay the same. But the Let's Plays, I'm going to be dialing back to like 15-minute videos instead of maybe 20 minutes if I really need to, but I'm going to try and cut it back to about 15 or so, as I think the 30-minute format is getting worn out over time for Let's Play episodes, at least in my opinion, for my channel and my, what you guys have told me and stuff. So it'll be cutting out the fluff, but it also won't require as much recording time either. It'll require more grind time for me to do the projects off camera. So I'm hoping between those two adjustments, I should be able to hit those marks of Thursdays and Saturdays being where I need to be by then. But we'll see how that goes. That's the idea of the schedule for now, though. And like I said, you'll also be seeing more stuff with that in mind, of like the game reviews, for example. Those would be a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday project to work on, is doing work on a game review, or the either more Dog Squad stuff, which I am still working on, or like the programming series, etc. And I actually have an idea for a new fully 3D animated thing, but that's probably going to be a while, because I've got to do a lot of work to get that where I want it to go. But that'll be a bit more of a dramatic series when it comes out, a little more serious, because I wanted to stretch my wings a little bit and do something a little different. That's kind of a hint, if you will, but I wouldn't expect to see anything on that project for a little while, because it's still very, very heavily in conceptualizing and development type of thing. So yeah, with all that in mind, let me know what you guys think, and be sure to comment on the FTC's stuff and their petition, or our petition to them, etc. and so on for YouTube, and let them know if you guys think that's not a good idea, like I do, or not. And in the meantime, I hope you guys have a happy Thanksgiving, or had a happy Thanksgiving, depending on when you see this. Be sure to leave your comments while we have them on all of the stuff, any ideas or feedback you want to give me on any of the topics I discussed. Keep an eye out in the next week or two for the Jedi Fallen Order review. I know it's a little late, but I kind of did it on the fly, and it was long after release when I decided to do it, so it's coming in a little late. But let me know what you guys think about that. And also, I probably won't be doing an update video until the next part of, like, when I'm back, when I come back in January. So I probably won't be doing another one. So in the meantime, I hope you guys also have a very Merry Christmas for those of you that celebrate it. I know it's weird for me to say that, but I've realized over doing YouTube, as long as I have, that I get comments from people that are in some other country, and they're like, we don't do that holiday. And you're like, oh, I thought everybody did it. So I always add, if you celebrate it, have a very Merry Christmas. Otherwise, I think that'll about do it for this episode. I apologize for it being another long one, but there was a lot to discuss, and I got a little ranty over the COPPA stuff. But again, looking for feedback where you guys see fit to give it. If you have ideas or thoughts on any of the topics that I talked about, be sure to leave a comment and let me know what you think. In the meantime, I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, and I will see you guys later. Peace.